You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
Yo, what's up, my NFL players? Is that good, Josh? Is that good? Was that good?
That's fine.
Yeah, it was good.
That is fine.
Y'all can thank Josh for that splendid idea. What's
Oh my
up,
God,
everybody?
I regret it.
Welcome back to the
everything.
Third Down Squad podcast. We have a fun episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some of the polls we ran this last week. We're going to be talking more free agency. There's a lot to discuss there. We're going to be talking pro days of some of the biggest athletes out there. And, of course, what you guys have all been waiting for, Josh's mock draft 2.0. Hopefully his 29th pick, which I've been told is of Dancy. Hopefully it's not as bad as his last one on his 30th pick. But we shall wait and see. But first, we're going to get started with the free agency for the Saints. And one of the biggest news yesterday was the Saints are expected to sign Jared Cook. While no deal has been officially reported yet, it is expected, and I think even the Saints have admitted that this is going to happen. So, Toby, why don't you tell us a little bit about that trade them acquiring Jared Cook and maybe some other news?
Yeah, I mean, that signing is huge for the Saints. I've said it on last week's episode that I hope that they will sign Jared Cook because he was basically the best tight end in free agency this year, even if he's 32 years old. But, I mean, it's still better than what the Saints had on their roster. And, I mean, they are still working out a couple of young tight ends for the draft, so I wouldn't be surprised if they actually picked a tight end in the second round with their 62nd pick. It would actually make sense to have a second guy behind Jared Cook because it might not work out that well as everybody's expecting. I mean, it's not always that surefire thing that you have when a guy comes in for the Saints. You saw it with Coby Fleener. He was a good tight end with the Colts because he had the connection with Andrew Luck. But when he came to the Saints, he literally did nothing for them, even with a elite quarterback as Drew Brees is. And he failed in New Orleans. So I want to see what Jared Cook can do there, and I'm excited about the pickup, but I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of them picking a tight end in the second round with their early pick in the draft. And yeah, some other news with the Saints right now are that they have freed up a little bit of cap space with Cameron Meredith, which I really like for them to keep him around because I think there's a lot of potential there if he's not injured. Mm-hmm. But he was paid too much for his injuries that he had in the past, but still keeping the depth at wide receiver that the Saints definitely need.
Yeah, so Josh, got anything to add to that?
I just like the signing, I guess. Just giving Drew Brees another big target. I mean, Jimmy Graham was probably their best tight end they ever had. But I think Jared Cook is definitely a great pickup. He's going to definitely help out Drew Brees in the passing game. And I believe he's also a fairly decent blocking tight end, if I'm not mistaken.
Not so much lately, but as he's getting older, he's more of a passing tight end.
Yeah, he can when he wants to try. So all in all, it's a good sign.
He is a lot like Eric Ebron. You know, you bring him out there for his passing game, and I mean, we all know it. Jared Cook is a huge upgrade at tight end versus what Drew Brees had in recent years. I'll tell you this: after losing Mark Ingram, losing an offensive weapon, that's a pretty good trade-off to be able to sign another weapon for your quarterback. And now with Jared Cook, who, in my opinion, was one of the most underrated tight ends last year, given the fact that he was throwing the ball more times than anyone for Oakland because he was really their only receiver. I think he can do really well in the Saints system because he's got Drew Brees throwing him the football.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just worried a little bit about after what they experienced with Fleener, so I'm a little bit more cautious now after that. But I hope that Cook is a different story.
Yeah, we hope so too. All right, so now Josh and I and Toby will also talk about the Colts free agency, where if you're a Colts fan today, you are very, very happy after what has happened the last couple of days. Clayton Geathers was re-signed, although the details of that contract are not out yet. The deal is official. And the big signing, Justin Houston, for a 2-year, $24 million deal with the Colts. Josh, what do you make of Chris Ballard's last two decisions here?
Excuse me. Yeah, I really like them. I mean, isn't Houston's what our second oldest person on our team now, behind Marcus Hunt or something like that?
I think he might be the oldest, I think, because he's 30. I don't know how many more of our guys. I know Jabal Sheard is 28, but I mean Justin Houston is definitely the oldest guy on our defense right now.
Yeah, so he does, and I think I'm pretty sure you can agree with this, Derek, is that Chris Ballard managed to convince him to come over to Indianapolis because, as we all know, the Raiders were looking for him. The I believe wasn't the Bears, weren't they in it at one point? Or I could be mistaken.
It could be. I mean,
Yeah.
I think every team was interested if given for the right price there.
Yeah, but like they said, like they keep saying, his whole thing was that the Chiefs wanted to trade him and get picks in return, but nobody bid on it, which left the Chiefs with the only option just to release him, just to free up cap space. So that connection with the Chiefs that Ballard still has is what I still think is the reason why Justin Houston came over from Kansas City to the Colts. Because remember, the same thing goes for everybody going into college. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And this is how we got Justin Houston over to Indianapolis. Great sign. He's a guy that can get to the quarterback because, as you know, Derek, we struggled to get to the quarterback this season. Even though we had a complete year of not allowing a 100-yard rusher, we still needed to get to the quarterback. So Justin Houston is a guy that we really needed. And with Clayton Geathers, him getting re-signed, I like it because he's definitely the strong safety to Malik Hooker's free safety, where Geathers likes to get up on the line and rush the quarterback or the running back. So having him back is another box we can cross off for what we don't need to get in the draft, you know? And it's the culture. The culture right here.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You got to keep, because remember, this is how Clemson beat Alabama. It was family versus factory. So if we have that family element with the team, they're going to do fantastic. So that's what I thought of it, Derek. What did you think of it?
I'll tell you this, the Colts free agency right now, I'm giving a solid A. I'm sorry if anyone thinks that any differently. You can't change my mind because I'm gonna go into the Clayton Geathers signing, then the Houston signing, and I'll explain where the Colts are at from this point forward. So Clayton Geathers signed a contract extension. The guys love Clayton Geathers. He is a big unit in the locker room. He's a lovable guy. Everyone wanted him back. And it's great to have him back. When he's healthy, he contributes very well for the Colts. Now, do I think that the Colts are not going to try and go for a safety in the draft? I think they will. I think that in the third or fourth round, they're going to try and go for a safety because I still think that they're searching for that answer because I don't think Clayton Geathers is the long-term issue. Or he is the long-term issue. He's good for right now, but they still need to upgrade at that position. But it's a good signing. They let Clayton Geathers talk with other teams. You know, he went out there, explored his options. He wasn't going to get paid a lot of money by teams because they were afraid of his neck history. And he just decided, you know what, if I'm going to spend another year or two in the NFL, I'm going to spend it with the guys that I fought so hard with last season. And I think that, you know, every person in the locker room says it. It's about the team. They care about each other so much. And I can't say it enough that the Colts locker room is as tight of a unit as any team in the NFL. And it's showing. Every team says it. And now to the Houston signing. The Houston signing is you're getting a B talent, but the deal itself was an A because you're paying him for a 2-year, $24 million. It's not that much, but you knew that Chris Ballard's connection to helping draft Justin Houston to begin with definitely helped. He had that personal relationship with Chris Ballard from before. And Justin Houston, he's 30 years old, yes, but he does have a little bit left in the tank. He says he does. I do believe he does. I do believe he's a guy that next season, if he gets about 60 to 65% of the snaps, I think that he can get 7 sacks. That's a realistic goal if he plays every game. I mean, the Colts obviously want to keep him fresh, so they might keep his snaps down because you want a guy like Houston for when they get into the playoffs. You want him to be fresh and to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. And the great thing is that he's so one-dimensional that way that you can move him out of the linebacker spot and simply put him at defensive end because that's one position that the Colts absolutely need. And Justin Houston brings a lot of experience. He's 30 years old, but he's experienced. He knows how to play. And for these young defensive linemen that the Colts are trying to acquire and get better, that's a great move because you may not get a ton of production out of Houston, but he's a great locker room guy. He'll work his ass off. He'll get you some numbers, and ultimately he's going to help the young guys. And I saw a tweet earlier said Justin Houston might be the best thing for Braden Smith, our right tackle. Imagine going up against Justin Houston, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. It definitely helps Braden Smith because Braden Smith is that forgotten piece on our offensive line. And after this deal, it's still hard to believe that the Colts have $70 million left in cap space still. And the next closest team has $43 million in cap space. That's insane. And that's Houston Texans, by the way. So the 2 AFC South teams have the most cap space still left. And it's great because now the Colts still have to still met with Jay Ajayi Wednesday. No deal has been made of that yet, but I think that might still happen. Anthony Lynch from the Bears came over. I mean, it reminds me like Chris Ballard's basically doing what Aaron Rodgers did a couple years ago when the Packers were 2-6 halfway through the season, and Rodgers said, "Relax, guys, we're gonna be all right." And then they run the table, going 8-0 and make it into the playoffs. Chris Ballard is saying, "Relax, bros, I got this. We're gonna be just fine." And it's working out. The Colts, if they sign Dontrell Inman, who's 30, by the way. I think the Colts said they want to bring him back, but he's still testing to see if he can find something else. If they bring Dontrell Inman back, they will have re-signed every player that started for the Colts last season is back on the roster. Plus, you added Devin Funchess and Justin Houston. I don't know how much better you can get. I really don't. And next season, the Colts are projected to have, again, over $100 million in cap space. It will most likely be around the 120, 130 mark. So Colts are set, dude. I'm loving this. I love the pick. Toby, I know I said quite a bit there. What do you think of what the Colts have done recently?
I mean, you both pretty much took the words out of my mouth, and I really love what the Colts did there. And I gotta agree with you, Derek. I'd give the Colts free agency an A right now as well. Because, yeah, they haven't made that big splash deal that everybody's talking about, like signing Le'Veon Bell or going for Antonio Brown or trading for OBJ, something like that. But they're playing it smart, and I think it's a good decision because they have a bunch of contracts, big contracts for their starters coming up next season, where they have to save the money for that and just giving out 1-year contracts. So you're not going to get the top guys for 1 year and stuff like that. So you're settling for not the top tier guys, but just the tier below that goes for 1 year prove it deal. And we're going to talk about it again next year. So I think the Colts are playing it really smart in that way. And I mean, you both already said about Houston that what he brings to the Colts is exactly what they need, a pass rusher who can get to the quarterback. And I see it like you do, Derek. You're not going to play him on every snap in the in the regular season, but you're gonna save him for the playoffs, and that's when he's gonna show up, and that's where he's gonna shine and get the important sacks for you that you need to get to the Super Bowl, which
Right.
I really think the Colts right now, after that free agency, after re-signing pretty much everybody that they had as a starter last year, after adding Devin Funchess, adding Houston right now, they have a pretty good team to make it to the playoffs and the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. That's the dream.
Hoosier hospitality is a real thing.
There you go. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Rams, who just recently acquired Clay Matthews on a 2-year, $16 million deal. The Rams and Clay Matthews said that it was great for Clay Matthews to come back home and play for the Rams. I think it's a matter – I think the deal itself is pretty good. But, Toby, what do you think Clay Matthews has anything left to really offer the Rams?
I mean, he's not the guy that he was, 3 years ago when he was one of the most dominant defensive players on the field. But I still think that he's an upgrade for the Rams at the position, because the Rams, kind of their front seven, their defensive line was at some points pretty dominant, but they had a couple of games in there where it wasn't really, you were searching for the big names like Aaron Donald or Ndamukong Suh that they had last year. So I think Clay Matthews brings a little bit of that personality guy back into the leader for them from a linebacker standpoint. They kind of, I mean, they have Aaron Donald as the most dominant player on their defensive line already, but I feel like Clay Matthews is more of the leader and Aaron Donald is more of the guy who's just playing out there, who is not really that guy who's getting people hyped in the defensive line, that isn't communicating that much, as I want to say, really. And that, for me, is the most important part of that Clay Matthews signing, not really what he brings as a football player for the efficiency on the field from himself, but what he can bring as the leader for the front seven for the Rams, with players, like I said, with Aaron Donald and all the other guys, to get them even better than they are already.
Josh, what do you think?
I think that this is a pretty big signing, because we all pictured Clay Matthews would stay a Packer for the rest of his career. It's going to be weird seeing him in a Rams jersey, but you're not going to be getting the Clay Matthews of old, where he was like pouncing around like a Jaguar ballerina on people, you know? You're probably going to get more of like the Justin Houston thing, like we said. He's going to play a few downs. And, they're going to just take it easy with him because of his like elbow history, his thumb history. It's a lot of those small injuries on him that kind of added up. But I do like the signing because, I mean, their defensive line last year was phenomenal, but their linebackers and everything past that were just subpar. So if you can kind of start to fill in the gaps a little bit here and there, I think that's fine. But, that's pretty much what I think. Just Clay Matthews is a perfect fit. I kind of think they overpaid for him a little bit, but other than that, I think that he's fine.
Yeah. I mean, and it's good for Clay Matthews, being able to play for, back in the city where he started growing up, and it's really good for a guy that feels that like he can feel like he's back home playing. And the deal itself, it feels a lot like a Justin Houston type deal. That's exactly right, Josh. The Rams are just taking a chance on a guy that shows potential from time to time. He definitely helps with their run defense. I think that, the pass rush for the Rams is already there. Clay Matthews has an occasional sack here and there as well. We saw early in the season last year where Matthews had plenty of sacks, many of which were penalized for obvious reasons. But I think that Clay Matthews, this is a good low end signing. It definitely doesn't make them worse. It definitely improves them a little bit at the linebacker and pass rush or the run fill kind of defense that they want. It's not a groundbreaking decision, but good for Clay Matthews, and it's a good pickup by the Rams for the amount of money that they got him for. All right, so now we're going to move on to the team that the Rams played in the playoffs, and that is the Cowboys, who recently just acquired Randall Cobb, a receiver, which I said in free agency talks that the Cowboys needed another true wide receiver to back up Amari Cooper. And I don't know the official details of the Randall Cobb one. I know it wasn't anything super big, but Josh, we'll start with you. Does Randall Cobb help the Cowboys in their passing game that much more?
I would say yes, but he's more of a slot guy.
Mhm.
He's not going to be your 1 or 2 because 1's already Amari Cooper and 2 is just whoever else is there. But yeah, Randall Cobb is a nice slot receiver. I think that they have one of the wide receivers from last year's draft. What was
Michael
it?
Gallup.
Yeah, Gallup. Yeah, I think this is going to be his time to shine at the number 2 position. And with Randall Cobb, he'll just do the same thing that he did in Green Bay and just get open whenever he can and just be that guy that, gets you like 20, 30 yards every like 5 catches. So, yeah. And not to mention the man has eyes that can pierce your soul. Have you seen those? Have you seen his eyes?
Yeah.
He's got eyes that will
his
they will
eyes.
pierce your soul, son.
Yeah, Toby, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the slot receiver for them right now. As you said, Josh, number 1 definitely is Amari Cooper. Number 2 is Michael Gallup. And for me, it is kind of a replacement for Cole Beasley, who went to Buffalo. And he's pretty much going to be in that exact same role as Cole Beasley was. He's going to get those slot passes, get those, 20, 30-yard passes like Josh already said. And for me, it's just pretty much a carbon copy what Cole Beasley did in Dallas is going to be the role of Randall Cobb there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you guys completely. Randall Cobb is going to try to be that number 2 role in the slot. I think that Randall Cobb is one of the most inconsistent receivers I've seen. It's like, one game he's non-existent, and in the next game he has like 7 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. It's like he's so bipolar. I don't know if it was probably because of the system in which he was in. He was obviously dealing with Aaron Rodgers and the downfall of what was the Packers, but hopefully the Cowboys can get some offense flowing, and maybe hopefully now that he's got a running back in Zeke Elliott that can free up the passing lanes, especially across the middle of the field. And also real quick, Josh, before we move into Eric Berry, just wanted to say just now that the Colts hosted former Broncos linebacker Shane Ray on a visit today. So the Colts are looking to sign him as well. Another young defensive lineman that can help rush the passer. I like that move. Hopefully that happens.
Good old Engage 8 from Madden Football is going to be coming this year to Indianapolis. Just you watch.
Yes. All right, now we're going to move on to the final topic of free agency, and that is Eric Berry. And speaking of the Packers, which I just mentioned, it is expected for the Packers to sign Eric Berry. Now, it is unofficial report that Eric Berry will be signing with the Packers. But, Toby, if this is truly, in fact, the deal, how much are the Packers going to improve in the secondary now that they got Amos from Chicago and possibly Eric Berry as well?
I mean, that's a huge deal for the Packers. That's the one thing that they didn't have last year. I mean, their offense was still a good team, but if you're trailing every game because of your mediocre to bad defense, you're not gonna win any games, even with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. So for me, adding 2 safeties in that team to kind of fill that backfield is a huge deal, especially with 2 players like Amos and Berry. If Berry actually signs with the Packers, if that report is actually true and is becoming official in a couple of days, that's a huge deal for the Packers, and I think the Packers would actually be a contender for the NFC North again, even with the strong Bears team and a strong Vikings team.
Yeah, Josh, what do you think about it?
See. I like it as long as like it's not like something ridiculous.
Mhm,
Because as much as we all love Eric Berry and everything that he's gone through,
mhm.
he's slowly been on the decline lately. Like he still has those moments of flair, but you just got to be. I honestly think a proper like deal for him would be like a 1 year, $10 million contract
Mhm.
because he's almost on his way out. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the future. Don't get me wrong on that, but yeah, having him in the backfield with Amos, you're going to definitely see a lot more less going deep with from opposing teams and more like the crossing routes.
Mhm.
So because they're not going to want to throw it to Amos or Barry because you got two guys with pretty much like Hawkeyes out there. They just
Yeah.
know right where the ball is. So
Yeah.
I definitely like the pickup if they get him.
Yeah, and Josh, sorry, Derek, real quick,
Yeah,
but you mentioned the decline of Eric Berry. I don't think it's really Eric Berry himself, but kind of the decline of the Kansas City defense that they experienced over the last couple of years. Because
Yeah.
one guy alone in the backfield can't change anything. He always needs the help of a corner or any other guy in the backfield. And I think that is what really hurt him over the last couple of years. So I really love to see him and Amos together in one backfield because they can help each other out so much.
Yeah, I agree with you both. Obviously, Eric Berry is not what he once was, and for obvious reasons. I mean, even after he beat cancer, prayers to the guy. I love the comeback story. Even after his beating cancer, he was a really good player when he was healthy. But the problem is if he stays healthy, he's had injury problems ever since coming back. And, it's like, to be completely honest with you, if I'm the Green Bay Packers, this is a good signing if it is indeed official at some point, if it's a short-term deal. Because if I'm the Packers, I'm still searching for that number one safety in the draft. I'm still doing it because that Eric Berry's not going to last because Eric Berry is getting up there in age. He's had injury history throughout the last few years. It's a good signing now. And you're right, Toby, that, with Amos and Eric Berry and with all the additions that the Packers have done on their defensive line, just the sheer number of defensive free agents that they've gotten has already boosted their defense tenfold. So I like what the Packers are doing. They're loading their defensive roster up with a bunch of high peak guys for short-term deals until they can find some younger pieces. I really like what they're doing here. I hope Eric Berry ends up going to the Packers. I think that the Packers would absolutely love Eric Berry there. But I agree with you again, Josh, that Eric Berry is not what he once was. He's starting on the decline, as you said. And I also agree with Toby that, the Kansas City Chiefs defense was so awful that you're right. Eric Berry, as good as he possibly is, it's harder for one defensive player to pick up the slack than it is for an offensive player. It's much more difficult. So hopefully Eric Berry finds himself a new home here soon. If it's not with the Packers, hey, I'll gladly take him for a year. I think the Colts will pay him $8 million for a 1-year deal to be with Eric Berry. I think it'd be great.
He also visited the Cowboys on Tuesday, so they're all in the race as well.
That.
So
yeah. All right, so now we're moving on from free agency. We're going to talk about our polls. We ran a couple of polls last week that and we were surprised at the number of people that voted on them. We'd never really gotten that many votes before, but the two biggest ones we talked about: should Denver draft Dwayne Haskins if the Giants end up passing on him? And 68% of you that voted said yes. And I am going to respond to it because this is Toby's question. I'm going to let him respond last, and I'm going to agree with you 68%. And I'm as much as I like Greedy Williams, and I don't know if the Giants will pass on Dwayne Haskins or not, that we don't know at this point. But if Dwayne Haskins is still available at that 10th pick, yes, Denver does need to bring that man in because you're talking about a guy that is going to change your franchise around if you get the players that he needs. And everyone saw his pro day. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, but we saw his pro day. It just shows exactly what everyone expected. Dwayne Haskins is that guy that will change any team that he goes to. Josh, do you agree that Denver should pick him up if he's still available there?
Oh yeah, there you are. You just kept going.
Stupid lag. Do you think, Josh, that Denver should draft Haskins if he's available?
Oh geez, this is kind of hard because you got Flacco, but he's not going to do much. But then again, you'd still probably have the opportunity to get one of the top cornerbacks in the draft.
Yeah. And Flacco says he wants to try to prove to everyone that he's still got it. He says he wants to.
He's a meme at this point. Hashtag not elite. But I'd say, oh geez, this is putting me in like a hard corner over here because it's like you want to have the best defense like you did back like 3 years ago, but you want to start looking towards the future. So I think they should stick with getting Greedy Williams and wait and see what next year's crop of quarterbacks comes out. Because I'd rather have the long-term viability of a defense that can like get me to like win games and a championship than just to have one quarterback and just kind of build around them. Because it's not just the quarterback they have to work on. Their offensive line needs work too. So
yeah,
I'd say keep going with Greedy Williams because I think Chris Harris is still there, so he might need some help over there. So I'd say go with Greedy.
All right, Toby, you're 68% of people agree with you. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who watches this regularly already knows my opinion about this, that I am certain that the Broncos should draft a quarterback at the 10th position. I mean, I would even take Drew Lock at number 10 for the Broncos right now. Because Josh said he'd rather have a better defense in Denver than picking a quarterback right now. But for me, I feel like a cornerback, even a rookie cornerback right now, will not change the defense in Denver that much to a level from 2015 when they went to the Super Bowl. Mostly on the defense alone. They're not at that level of a defense anymore. And it's not one missing piece in the defense. It's a lot of missing pieces in the defense. The one thing you need right now up in Denver is a quarterback that can actually help you get on an offensive drive and score a couple of points, because it's not going to help you if you have an elite offense on the field that can keep the opposing team to 18 points. Which, if you look at the AFC West right now with the Chargers and the Chiefs in one division, it's not going to happen that they keep those teams to 18 points in a game. And when you have a quarterback like Joe Flacco, who, like Josh already said, we're all agreeing on here, he is not an elite quarterback, and he is not even a good quarterback in my eyes anymore. He's a mediocre quarterback at best in the NFL anymore. So if you have a quarterback like that in your backfield, you're probably not even going to win a game or a bunch of games that you can keep the opposing team to 18 points when you're not even scoring 18 points yourself. So
0-16 team next year, Denver Broncos.
Hey, I'm gonna activate this. Put it on the poll, Derek. Is Joe Flacco a meme?
All right, we'll figure that out here soon. But also be sure to check out our recent poll, guys. It's not a sports poll, but we still need your input anyway. All right, Toby, last remarks here.
Yeah, I just feel like they should get a quarterback. Even, I mean, yeah, they had a couple of quarterbacks like Paxton Lynch in there that were a huge miss in the first round. And, I mean, why would you even pick Paxton Lynch in the first round anyway? For me, that year, Paxton Lynch shouldn't have been in the first round. I mean, all three of us, as you can see in the background of Josh, we all three went to Bowling Green State University, and the Falcons actually played Memphis that year. And I don't know if you two guys were at the game and watched Paxton Lynch play. I was at that game. And if you're looking at that game alone, you can see that Paxton Lynch is not an NFL quarterback. So that was a huge miss. But if you're looking at the quarterbacks, especially when we're talking about Dwayne Haskins right now, if you're putting up 50 touchdowns in the Big Ten and breaking Drew Brees' record, you're definitely an NFL quarterback that can help your team. And that's what the Denver Broncos, for me, need right now, especially in a division like the AFC West right now.
I gotcha. Yeah, I agree with you. We're going to move on to the second poll that we ran. This is just going to be an elaborate, just have Josh elaborate on this poll because, Josh wanted to ask this question and we got our answer. And about 73% of you said that if the Colts should be moved to the AFC East and the Dolphins should be moved to the AFC South. We had the poll and it says 45% of you said yes, 28% of you said a bunch of teams need to be moved to different divisions, and 27% of you said no. Josh, please elaborate on this poll.
All right. This has been aggravating me and irking me for years, and I mean years, because pull up a map of the United States of America, you will see Indianapolis is in the north, and Miami is in the south, but their teams are in the completely different, necessary time zones here going on. So I hope I don't want to speak for everybody, but I just don't like it. AFC South, we're in the south, but we're in the north. This is stupid.
I agree with you on that. I do. And I would love to see the Colts actually go to the AFC East because, when the Patriots eventually die off, who else in that division would be able to stop the Colts right now?
Keep in mind when they were the Baltimore Colts, they were in the AFC East, always playing the Patriots. But then all of a sudden, the Houston Oilers moved to Tennessee, and Houston wants a team back. And so what do? We make the AFC South, and we put Indianapolis, a team in the Midwest of the United States, not even close to the Southern Hemisphere.
I'm living in an apartment this summer that's farther south than Indianapolis.
Exactly. And you have Miami, probably the most southern team in the league. It
is.
East. It is south.
It's as far south as it gets.
AFC South. Come on. Look, my voice is cracking from this thing. I shouldn't be doing this, but come on, NFL. Do some redirecting. All right, next topic.
This wasn't even really a poll. It was just to see Josh get aggravated. That's pretty much what this was all about.
Yeah, it was just for our amusement, really.
Toby, you got anything to add to that, or?
For me, it's not only the Colts and the Dolphins moving. For me, it's also I put Dallas in there as well. So for me, it's not just these two teams. For me, it's a lot of teams. For me, the entire league should restructure their entire divisions, so you can actually cut back on traveling costs, traveling times, and which would make it easier for players to recover from road games if they didn't have to travel that far for a game. And it would also save a lot of costs for the teams itself, with the NFL wanting to cut back a little bit on the costs for them. So I'd say take a look at the divisions maybe after 2020 when they have to renegotiate a new deal with the NFL Players Association, I believe, that is overdue in 2 years. So I'd say have a look at that and maybe restructure a little bit.
When they do the London thing, are they going to call it the AFC Far East? Is that what they're going to do?
Let's just do a Europe division. I'll be fine with that. One in London, one in Germany, and I don't know where else.
I heard a rumor that the Cowboys are actually trying to get a game started in Hawaii. That would be something.
Yeah, I think they do one for the preseason. I think they have announced a preseason game in Hawaii, which I really like.
Yeah. That'll be pretty cool.
Remember when the Pro Bowl was in Hawaii?
They should do it again.
Should do it again, yeah. It'd be a fun time. All right, now we're going to move on to pro days, and there was a lot of them this past week. The three biggest ones I think that everyone can agree on was the 3 quarterbacks, two of which are definitely first rounders, one that might sneak his way into third round or the first round as well. That is Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, and Drew Lock. Dwayne Haskins gave himself, he looked phenomenal at his pro day. Everyone had high praise for him. Toby, I'm going to start with you because I don't know if I get a read on you with this question, but did Dwayne Haskins pro day give you the impression that he is truly the best quarterback in this draft class?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dwayne Haskins pro day, I just rewatched the highlights just right before the podcast to kind of, because I didn't know the question that you're going to ask me, but I just wanted to have a closer look on what he actually did in the pro day because I missed a bunch of it. But he looked really good. His passes were just on point most of the time. His footwork looked good. I loved what they did in the beginning of his throws with the ladder on the ground, kind of showing up his mobility, his footwork, and what he can do on the run as well. And he had a lot of good passes on it. He showed that he can control his throw, how much speed he puts on the ball. He wasn't throwing it too hard that the receivers had a hard time catching it, but enough force to have a good enough speed on it for a deep pass. But he just controlled the ball so well on his pro day. I said he didn't look that well at the combine, but he definitely made it up at his pro day.
Josh, same question to you.
Yeah, because I have never seen a quarterback that looked like he's always on easy mode. Like everybody else is on like normal or hard difficulty, but there's Dwayne Haskins over there making it look easy. So I think it is possible that Kingsbury gets over his fascination and just love for Kyler Murray and says, you know what? Dwayne Haskins is better than him. You know, but I doubt that's going to happen. And I'm pretty sure we all know that Kyler Murray is going to go number one because Oklahoma makes great quarterbacks. But all in all, he's very Peyton Manning-esque, you know?
Yeah.
Drop back, just throws it deep, you know? And sure, he may have his, like, you know, faults, you know, like where a sloth can run faster than him, even though he's not really meant to run. But you know, you just got to live with that. And he's definitely the quarterback that you want the most because he's tall, he's got a strong arm, and he's got a good head on him. And he's probably he's just, I can't say enough about this guy. He's just that fantastic. Yeah. Like, he's definitely going to be the steal of the first round by any team because everybody's like, oh, look at Kyler Murray, him and his 5'10" looking person, you know? You just when you got I like Dwayne Haskins over here. Yeah, we want Kyler Murray.
I mean, come on. Of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, and anyone can kind of talk about it, but how many of those quarterbacks that are in the top 10 of all time have been known to run the football? How many of them? Maybe one, two of them, maybe?
I'd say
John
two.
Elway was one of them, and
Steve Young. Steve Young.
And Steve Young had his mobility at times, but like. That's the thing. These guys, the best quarterbacks don't run because they don't last long. And Dwayne Haskins showed again why he's the best quarterback in this draft. And it's why the Giants should go for him with the 6th pick because he is that fantastic. I will just say this as a quick side note. During that pro day, Terry McLaurin, in my opinion, is going to be the biggest draft riser in this entire draft. Most people during the season said he's not going before the 3rd round. Now a lot of people are saying he'd be lucky to not get taken before the end of the 2nd round. Like, because that many teams are interested in him now because of after what they saw from the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, his numbers, and obviously at the Pro Day catching balls from Dwayne Haskins at 60 yards away. I mean, but back to Dwayne Haskins, you're right, Josh. He is a better prospect now than any of the quarterbacks last year. Everyone said how amazing that draft class was going to be for the quarterbacks. I will take Dwayne Haskins over any of those guys any day of the week. He is big. He is strong. He's got a cannon of an arm, can throw it 60 yards and make it not look like it's anything. He's got good accuracy. he doesn't have great accuracy. That's something he's going to have to fix. And probably his biggest fault is that his instincts. I think he sometimes questions his throws and questions his routes because of how strong he is. But if you fix that, and that's something that quarterback coaches are going to talk about and everything else, but again, he is just the most pure raw prospect you can possibly get because he has every intangible that you want in a quarterback. And he's smart too. He's not dumb. He knows exactly what he says, what he does all the time. And sure, he's not going to run scrambles, but he can move around the pocket. You saw it in the Northwestern game. If anybody watches the Northwestern game, just watch in the first, I think it was the first or second quarter, his second touchdown pass that he threw to the tight end in the corner of the end zone. He had to break 2 tackles, move out of the pocket, and move around everyone to just make that one throw on the run, and it was spot on. He has the ability. He has everything you need. And if I'm the Giants, I don't pass on him. I mean, and his pro day just reiterated everything I've been saying to everyone all year long. He is the best quarterback out there. I don't care if Kyler Murray is going to get drafted first. I don't care. The best quarterback will be Dwayne Haskins in a few years from now. It definitely will be. And now, since we're talking about Kyler Murray, let's shift to Kyler Murray. And everyone's been saying how, he had himself a pretty decent pro day. There were some conflicting reports. You had Joel Klatt saying how amazing his throwing was at his pro day, and other people saying he wasn't as consistent as they wanted him to be. I think, Toby, we'll start with you again. What did you make of Kyler Murray's pro day?
Yeah, it definitely was an interesting pro day. First of all, I don't get it. You're the run quarterback that everybody's talking about. You're the fast guy. You're the guy who can run the ball, who's probably running a 40 and a 4.3, somewhere around that. And you didn't run at the combine, and now you don't run at your pro day either. Why are you not running? That's one point that I don't understand about Kyler Murray, but I think it's because of his weight, because in college he was playing at 195 pounds, I believe. At the combine he was measured at 207 pounds, so he gained a little bit of weight, and I think it was 205 at his pro day. So I believe he doesn't want to run because he gained the weight, first of all. So that's, for me, that's a minus point for Kyler Murray, because he doesn't put up a time at the 40. For a quarterback that you want to run before throw, that's not really a good look for you. But then you look at the passing, and yeah, he had some good throws in there. And I also can agree with the people that say, yeah, he had a couple of off throws in there as well. His consistency was not quite there during his pro day performance. And I mean, I loved his stance when he was throwing, because he just put his foot down, but I don't know, the footwork kind of it felt off when he was dropping back. It looked weird to me. It was kind of, I'm not sure how it will be when he's under pressure with big guys coming from the NFL. But I'm kind of worried about that a little bit. I don't know if that really is a concern for teams right now, but for me, from what I saw in the pro day, and I watched all of it and watched the highlight again, because I wasn't sure if I saw that right with his footwork. But for me, because I don't know, usually when you're looking at good drop back quarterbacks, they put the feet side to side, and it felt, when I was looking at Kyler Murray, he was kind of crossing his feet over when he was dropping back, which was kind of weird to me, and looking like he could stumble a little bit when he is crossing over his feet. But that was just what I looked at and how I feel about it. Maybe maybe coaches are seeing it differently, and maybe they think that they can change it, that they can change his drop back. But for me, that's a little bit of a concern, which I don't think anybody has ever talked about, but that I kind of noticed at his pro day.
Josh, anything you noticed?
Toby kind of just said everything that I was going to say. Like, if you're going to say that you're, a running quarterback, run. You just can't look at a Lamborghini and say it goes fast. No, you have to like actually see it go fast before you go ahead and buy it. But right now, I tell you what, the Cardinals, if they draft Kyler Murray number 1, it's going to be the Browns drafting Johnny Manziel all over again. It's all name and no context because Kyler Murray's not doing enough to justify that number 1 position. You can say like, oh, he's accurate, he can do all this, but he's not showing how fast he can run. He's not really showing. I think he's holding back. And you can kind of see it in the tape, too, that he's holding back because he's coasting on the fact that he's going to be number 1. When, in all reality, it should be Dwayne Haskins to go number 1. Just saying. But I think that with Baker Mayfield getting taken number 1 last year, Kyler Murray thinks he already has an automatic in at the number 1 position this year. So I think he's getting too complacent right now and not really – and I think he's also getting self-conscious because remember he weighed 195 during the season and now he weighed like 205. I think that he just bulked up just so it looked like he could take a hit,
Yeah.
Because you got you got a skinny 5'10" kid in the backfield here. But I think if you want to take at number 1 Cardinals, go ahead. But Dwayne Haskins will probably be the greatest quarterback out of this draft here. And he's going to burn you every time they play.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Derek?
Yeah, Derek, just before you start, because we talked about the weight right now again, and a lot of people are comparing Kyler Murray with his measurables at 5'10", 205 to Russell Wilson up in Seattle, who is also 5'10", and I think he weighed in at 210 at the combine. But so you can compare the two at the combine measurements, but if you're looking at it, we already said Kyler Murray's playing weight is at 195. But then you're looking at Russell Wilson, who played in college at over 220. So there is a difference of 30 pounds between the two. And if you're comparing these two players just because of their measurables at the combine, they are two completely different players when they're at playing weight. So if you're saying, yeah, Russell Wilson can take a hit because he has the same measurables as Kyler Murray does, that's just not true. He's playing at 30 more pounds than Kyler Murray is, so I'm not sure if Kyler Murray actually can take a hit from an NFL defensive lineman.
Well, and the difference between Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray is Russell Wilson never really designs run. He can scramble. We've all seen it. We all know he can move around the pocket. We all know he can get a 5-yard play when he knows the play is busted. But Kyler Murray is the guy that when you play Big 12 defenses, this is what I've always said. Baker Mayfield was the exception because Baker Mayfield actually had accuracy that went along with his numbers and justified him as a quarterback. But the problem I have is that people in the Big 12 who win Heismans, they get that because their numbers are mortified because the defenses in the Big 12 are statistically the worst defenses in any conference out there. Their defenses are non-existent. And when you play against non-existent defenses and you struggle against a defense that actually knows how to play defense, you start to question yourself a little bit. And in regards to Kyler Murray's pro day, I wasn't impressed. I mean, he had some good throws, don't get me wrong. He had a couple of throws that I feel like he was trying to do too much. Felt like he put a little too much on throws and overthrew guys a couple times. It's kind of funny that SportsCenter put highlights up. I remember watching some of the highlights from SportsCenter, and they were showing a couple of his throws, and a couple of his throws were like his receivers are jumping off the ground at full height and extension to catch balls, and you're playing that as a highlight clip.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily a great thing to see. And you're right. It's like if you're notified as the guy that's a scrambler and a guy that's known for his running ability, why haven't you run yet? Like, I don't understand why you're not running yet. It's a smart idea for you to at least do 140 time. Even if your 40 time is not that amazing, you have to show your speed because you've shown that was your best asset in college. I don't know if he's trying to prevent injury because I'm sure maybe he saw Dexter Lawrence injure himself in his 40 time, and remembers John Ross hurting himself in his 40 time when he was doing this stuff. But you can't think of injury when you have to think of the opportunity that's in front of you, and you have to show off your best asset. And your best asset is not throwing. It's being able to make plays with your feet. And the accuracy thing, I think, everybody kind of knows he's accurate enough. He doesn't have outstanding accuracy. He doesn't have the best arm, but he's got enough to be able to do it. But overall, I wasn't impressed with Kyler Murray's pro day. It didn't make me think any less of him, but it didn't make me feel any higher on him either. All right, now we're going to talk about Drew Lock, the third quarterback for Missouri. We talked a little bit about him at the combine. His throwing and accuracy wasn't anything to really be admired, but he did have a pretty decent pro day, showing that he does have his own cannon of an arm. Not quite as good as Dwayne Haskins, but pretty close. Toby, we'll start with you again. What did you make of Drew Lock's pro day?
Okay, first of all, which has nothing to do with how he performed at the pro day, but why did Drew Lock keep us waiting for over 2 hours before he actually started with his pro day workout? When you were watching NFL Network, they were teasing, okay, Drew Lock is coming out any minute now. Okay, 2 hours later, okay, he's finally on the field. We can do this now. And yeah, it felt weird from the start, but I mean, he didn't do the traditional workout that everybody does with the whole, okay, I'm just going to do the drop back passes and throw it to my wide receivers. But they actually did most of their stuff with the ladder on the ground, showing them some off-balance throws, and kind of when he was on the move, kind of the weird stuff, all that he can do on the run and when he's pressured and not. Because, I mean, when you're not pressured at a pro day, everybody can make those 15-yard out route throws. I mean, that's just backyard stuff, and you can't really see anything from it. So they went a more untraditional route, which I really like, because it simulates a little bit more of what you will see from him in an actual NFL game. And his performance was I'd say pretty good for where he is supposed to be drafted. The only problem with him I have, and I said it at our combine segment a couple of weeks ago, is his hands measurement, which feels for a big dude like him are kind of small. So I'm not sure if, especially in colder, wet weather, he can grip the ball too well, but that's a different story. But at the pro day, he impressed me, and I think he should be a late first rounder after what I saw from him. And the combine workout wasn't as bad either.
Josh, do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree with Toby. I think that, first off, waiting 2 hours, I think he used the excuse of fashionably late.
Yeah.
But,
it was like Antonio Brown for his own press conference being introduced to Oakland. It took him 35 extra minutes to get to the facility.
Well, I mean, he just moved there. But anyway, back to Drew Lock.
True.
Back to the Loch Ness Monster, because that's what he's going to be. Anyway, in all seriousness, I think, Toby, I know where you're going with it, the late first rounder, but I think he's more of a mid-tier first round quarterback, like 15 on. He's not like Dwayne Haskins. He doesn't have like the perfect quarterback build as Dwayne Haskins or the name of Kyler Murray. But I think, like you said, like his arm, he's accurate when he wants to be accurate.
Wow.
But I'm afraid we're looking at the next Blake Bortles with him. He's all show.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to it, he's not going to perform.
Yeah, I think you have a great comparison. I actually haven't thought of that comparison with Blake Bortles yet, because he has the size. He has the whole build for the ideal quarterback with size, weight, and all that stuff. And then you're looking at his accuracy, which is under 60% in college. and that's Blake Bortles numbers pretty much. And I really like the comparison, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I agree with you both. It's like if he doesn't, it could possibly get picked up by Miami because Miami has already stated they're in the market for a quarterback, even with the signing of Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick's not a long-term deal, so. But I mean, the question becomes: is if do you take the chance on Drew Lock this year, and say he's the future for you? I don't think he is for Miami. I think Miami takes somebody different if somehow Dwayne Haskins falls to them, or if they can get a trade with Denver to move up to their spot and take that spot, then they would definitely go for him. But I think that Drew Lock, in his reign of passage, either finds himself with Washington or finds himself in the midst of the New England Patriots. I could see it happening, but it's hard to tell just because of which teams actually need a quarterback at this moment and which teams are wanting to go for a guy that really isn't as highly projected as a Dwayne Haskins or a Kyler Murray. But that's going to be obviously determined later on. But now we're going to move on to the Alabama players and Nick Bosa. We're going to combine these two together. Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams, two of the top defensive linemen in all the draft, two players who are projected to be in the top 5 of most mock drafts, did not participate at their pro days. I'll do 2 questions here. And then second, Alabama, Jonah Williams and Josh Jacobs both participated at their pro days, even though Josh Jacobs did not perform at the combine. First question, and we'll start with Josh this time. Do you think that Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams not showing up at pro days okay, given what they did at the combine? And for the other 2 Alabama players, Jonah and Josh Jacobs especially, do you think that their pro day helps with their draft stock at all?
I think in regards to Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams, I think that they did enough at the combine to warrant them being the 2 and 3 pick. Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, they just got to go look at my college, look at my days in college, look at how dominant I am, and then just compare it with the combine. So I have no problem with them sitting out because I think they did enough both in college and at the combine to warrant not doing a pro day. Because if you're doing a pro day, it's just essentially you padding words in your essay just to meet that word count when you don't really have to. That's my comparison for that. Yeah. But in regards for Jonah Williams and Josh Jacobs, I think having them do that, especially for Josh Jacobs, it did help their draft stock. But I still think that Josh Jacobs might be a first, not really early second rounder in this draft. But I think
late second or early second.
Yeah, but I think Jonah Williams, he kind of pushed himself into that top 10, almost maybe top 5, area with this workout here. Because remember when Quentin Nelson was drafted by the Colts at 6, everybody's like, why are you taking a lineman at 6? Jonah Williams could be essentially somebody else's Quentin Nelson,
Mm-hmm.
He's big, powerful, and he's loyal. And that's what everybody looks for in an offensive lineman. Now, I think the Giants would probably take Jonah Williams at that 6th pick. So, because they're all in on the fading, star in Eli Manning. I don't know why you just don't want to get a quarterback now and just rebuild, because you just lost Odell Beckham Jr. So, but yeah, that's what I think. So, what do you think, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with you on Quinnen Williams and Nick Bosa. They both have earned the right with how they performed in college and what they did at the combine to sit out on pro day. They showed enough in the workouts at the combine. They don't have to prove anything else anymore. They have shown they are the 2 best players in this draft class already. So for me, that's not a problem. They have the right to do that. So just enjoy, just do the interviews and just do that. And I see it a little bit different with Josh Jacobs as you, Josh. I see him as a first-round pick. I think he's the only running back that should or will go in the first round, and that workout at his pro day with that 4.6 40-yard dash, I mean, I don't think anybody expected that from him. That boosted his value so much. And then when you're looking at his workout afterwards with the bags and what he did with his feet, I mean, yeah, I could see him in the mid first round. And actually, one guy I think is actually pretty undervalued, which we don't really talk about here, is the second running back of Alabama, and Damian Harris, who for most people is the second running back on their board for the draft, but nobody's talking about him. Because if you're talking running back in this draft class, you're just talking Josh Jacobs, I feel like, in the media. So that's another guy from Alabama that I want to talk about right here that I just want to mention quickly, who showed up really well already at the Combine, and his pro day just underlined that as well. And for Jonah Williams, I mean, yeah, that guy is just the best offensive lineman in the draft. And for me, yeah, if he's available at the 6th pick for the Giants, if they don't want to go quarterback, he's probably the best choice to protect Eli Manning for at least one more year. But I feel like there are a couple of teams ahead of them that could actually use help at the O-line, especially at right tackle, which is the preferred spot for Jonah Williams. So I feel like he might go in the top 5 picks this year.
Yeah, I agree as well. All right. Now we're going to move on to everybody's favorite portion. It's going to be Josh's mock draft 2.0. Josh, you have the floor.
All right, before I begin, to you lucky listeners and viewers on the YouTube channel, I'd just like to tell you right now that if you've heard my first 1.0 draft, it's almost the same, but with like a little bit of difference here and there. So, and I know I might have messed up a college or two, and I'm pretty sure they'll let you know, because they'll probably bark at me. But anyway, let's get like Philip DeFranco. Let's just jump into it.
Right.
So with the first pick, the Arizona Cardinals taking Kyler Murray. I got them taking Kyler Murray. The writing's on the wall. It's there. It's going to happen, you know. All right, with the second pick, I got the San Francisco 49ers taking Nick Bosa, you know, just to help pad open that the defensive line, finally get my boy Solomon Thomas into that defensive tackle position, which he was meant to have. Number 3, I got the Jets taking Quinnen Williams. He's just too much of a good defensive end that you just can't afford to pass up on him, just like Nick Bosa. With number 4 pick, I got Oakland taking Josh Allen, the defensive end from Kentucky. With the 5th pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Montez Sweat from Mississippi State. With the 6th pick, I have the Giants taking Jonah Williams, offensive tackle from Alabama. With the 7th pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars still taking Cody Ford from Oklahoma to help give Nick Foles some of that protection that he needs. With the 8th pick, I have the Detroit Lions still taking Rashawn Gary, the edge rusher from Michigan. With the 9th pick, I have the Buffalo Bills taking DK Metcalf, I should say. I know that they just signed Cole Beasley a while ago, but you need to get Josh Allen, the quarterback Josh Allen from the Bills, a wide receiving core that's pretty, you know, flexible and like deadly. So anyway, with the number 10, I still have the Denver Broncos taking Greedy Williams. So out of the top 10 this time, what do you guys think of this?
Well,
Derek, you.
Yeah, the first 3 or the first 2 we pretty much all agree on at this point, and Quinnen Williams and Jonah Williams, I mean, they're pretty much they can be on opposite spectrums. I mean, you could see the Jets selecting Jonah Williams and Quinnen Williams going to Giants and vice versa. I could see that. I agree with you on the Cody Ford pick. And I think if I decide that the Giants will again want Dwayne Haskins, then I would agree with you on the Greedy Williams pick. I still have TJ Hawkinson going to the Detroit Lions. I don't know if that's like coincidence that, they drafted Eric Ebron, the 8th pick in the first round many years back. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but that's still up in the air. But first 10 picks, Josh, I agree with you on most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the first 5 picks, we pretty much, just in a different order, we have the same guys at the top 5. And if you're looking, like Derek said, we agree on number 1, Kyler Murray right now, and number 2, Nick Bosa. That's unanimous for all 3 of us right now. And 3, 4, 5, and even 6 with Jonah Williams. I mean, 3, Quinnen Williams. I can't see the Jets passing on Quinnen Williams. I'm just not sure if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might go with an offensive tackle like Jonah Williams, because they need somebody in front of Jameis Winston to protect him, to maybe get a little bit more of a performance out of their former number 1 pick. But it can go either way. I mean, Montez Sweat is a great addition for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. That's just, these 3 picks can change around a lot. And I agree with you, Josh, on DK Metcalf. They have signed Cole Beasley and a couple other guys. But for right now, in Buffalo, the only type of receiver they have is a speed receiver. And yeah, Josh Allen has a cannon of an arm. If you're looking back at his pro day last year, he was launching it from one end zone to the other almost. So that's a couple of great targets for him, but you also need that big guy in the end zone, and DK Metcalf can definitely give it to them.
Mm-hmm. All right, keep on going, Josh.
Cincinnati, I still have them taking TJ Hawkinson from Iowa. You gotta find that replacement for Eifert, because unfortunately Eifert looks like he's pretty much done in the NFL after all this injury history, which is a shame. With the Packers in the 12th pick, I have them still taking Devin White, the linebacker from LSU. Because if they're on that defensive move right now, you got to pad up that defense that they have.
Mm-hmm.
With the 13th pick, I have Miami taking Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, just because, they're in on a quarterback, and everybody else looks like they have a set quarterback for the future for them. So I have Atlanta still taking Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan. With the 15th pick, I still have Washington taking Drew Lock from Missouri. With the 16th pick, I have Carolina taking Colin Farrell, edge from Clemson.
Okay.
With the 17th pick, I have the Giants now still taking DeAndre Baker, the cornerback from Georgia. They need help ever since they traded away Eli Apple to the Saints for a cornerback. With the 18th pick, I have Minnesota taking Byron Murphy still. With the 19th pick, I have Tennessee taking Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle to Clemson. With the 20th pick, I have Pittsburgh still taking Mac Wilson, the linebacker from Alabama. With the 21st pick, I have Seattle taking Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle from Clemson.
Yeah,
I know I kind of went past the 20th pick, but I'll just get to the 25th and
Yeah.
stop. But the 22nd pick, I have Baltimore taking Noah Fant. They still need a tight end in Baltimore. Ever since what was his name? Heath? No. I know the name. He hurt his knee.
It wasn't Noah.
I
keep going, and I will think
Yeah.
of that name.
Yeah. Houston, I have them taking Deontay Thompson, the safety from Alabama. I mean, excuse me if I butchered that name. With the 24th pick, I have Oakland taking Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston. And with the 25th pick, I have Philadelphia taking Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle from Florida, to help protect Carson Wentz.
I think your team needs are pretty decent. I don't agree with you on TJ Hawkinson. I think the Bengals still need a defensive guy to help them more than a tight end, because they did re-sign Tyler Eifert. It was to a 1-year deal, but they did re-sign him. And I agree with you. Miami's going to try and go quarterback. And then I think, what was it? I agree with you on Tennessee going for Christian Wilkins. I agree that I agree that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go linebacker. I believe it'll be Devin Bush at that spot, but that's what I believe. I think he'll fall off on. But in regards to like, your picks, I think that you hit the team needs pretty good other than the Bengals pick.
Yeah, I agree with the Bengals. The tight end, I feel like it's still a need for the Bengals because, yeah, they re-signed Tyler Eifert. Problem is, can he actually play, or how many games will he play, and how productive will he be on the field? But for now, I think first round, their focus should be more on defense, like Derek said, and they can take care of a tight end second or third round later on. And I also don't agree on the second tight end pick in Baltimore because they have a bunch of tight ends up there, and I feel like they drafted Hayden Hurst last year in the first round, and he was injured at the first portion of the season. But if we're looking at his preseason stuff that he did there, he looked phenomenal. So I feel like not taking a tight end right now in the first round again, but look at Hayden Hurst and all the other guys. I think they have 3 tight ends right now that have pretty good potential up there in Baltimore. So adding Noah Fent in there would be kind of overkill and not worth a first round pick for the Ravens this year again.
No, I think that Noah Fant could possibly be a first round pick, Josh. I agree with you that he could be.
He is a first round pick, yeah.
I just don't think in the first 20. I could see him late first round, but not in the first 20.
Whoever's going to draft him is going to be fantastic.
And there you go, folks. That's your bad pun joke of the day.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, Josh, please continue.
All right. With the 26th pick, I have Indianapolis still taking Draymond Jones. Okay. With the Oakland Raiders, I have them taking Brian Burns, still the edge rusher from Florida State. With the Chargers, I have them taking Nasir Adderley, the safety. I'm trying to remember. I think I just college wrong last time.
It's Delaware.
All right, I had it right then. I thought I had it wrong. All right, here's the 29th pick, Derek.
Drum roll, please.
The Kansas City Chiefs will draft Mike Weber, running back from Ohio State.
Oh, gosh, really?
With the 30th pick, I have Green Bay taking Paris Campbell, wide receiver from Ohio State. With the 31st pick, I have the Rams taking Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver from NC State. And lastly, I have the New England Patriots taking Daniel Jones, quarterback from Duke.
Okay. First off, I appreciate you giving the Ohio State brothers some love. I appreciate that very much. But your analysis there is complete crap. I'm sorry. There's no way Mike Weber and Paris Campbell get drafted before Terry McLaurin and Josh Jacobs. I'm sorry. As good as Mike Weber did and as good as Paris Campbell did, I'm sorry to say I don't think it's going to happen. And not to mention, I don't think this is a severe issue or not, but Paris Campbell did get injured at his pro day. I don't think it was anything severe, but it definitely did raise some eyebrows. But I appreciate the picks, Josh, but I don't see that happening. Other than that, I kind of agree with you. I think that Drew Lock will get picked before Daniel Jones, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree on the Daniel Jones. I think Drew Lock is earlier, but I think you have him to Miami, if I'm correct.
Drew Lock, I have him to Washington.
Or Washington, yeah. He's gone before Daniel Jones in his mock draft as well. So I feel like Daniel Jones' 32nd pick for the Patriots is all right as the fourth quarterback off the board if the Patriots are looking to get a backup to Tom Brady. And yeah, Mike Weber, for me, he is also not in the first round, especially not in front of Josh Jacobs and Damian Harris from Alabama. Both of them will be drafted before him. Mm-hmm. And actually, Mike Weber, for me, is more at the draft position like Alvin Kamara did go 2 years ago. It kind of late second-round pick, I feel like, after the performance that he had at the Pro Day and at the Combine. And actually, as a Saints fan, I wouldn't be opposed to the Saints getting a running back like Mike Weber, because from what I've seen from Mike Weber, I'd like to compare him to Mark Ingram a little bit. So I think he would be a great replacement for Mark Ingram in
think so, too.
New Orleans. And
Yeah.
Paris Campbell, actually, I could see him being a late first round pick. Yeah, there might be a couple other guys that might have to go in front of him, but I feel like there are a bunch of teams that are in need of a wide receiver that if a run goes to wide receiver, that it will go down in the middle of the first round, and that Paris Campbell will actually go in the late first round. But
yeah, I guess we'll have to see with that.
Yeah, not if the board falls like it did in your mock draft, but the potential is there for Paris Campbell to go in late first round.
True. All right, guys. Well, that is it for this week's podcast. We hope you enjoyed. It was definitely a great one. Toby, Josh, thank you very much for doing this with me again. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter and our podcast channel at T3DS_NFL and on YouTube and Spotify. And as always, we hope you enjoyed. Peace.
See ya.